What is going on, YouTube? It's your man right here, the one and only Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders of the RCWR show, coming at you with a very cool DVD review. I know, right? For you longtime subscribers, it's been a good minute since we've done a DVD review for you guys, but I am back and I couldn't think of a better way to kick off the return of our DVD review series than by talking about something that almost slipped past me, as this DVD came out about, if I'm not mistaken, 2 weeks ago, maybe slightly a little bit more than that, but still relatively new, definitely under the radar, unless you have some type of a newsletter as far as what wrestling DVDs are going to be released, in particular by the WWE. Yes, I am talking about the new Eric Bischoff DVD that is titled Sports Entertainment's Most Controversial Figure. I had picked this bad boy up today at my nearest Best Buy, and I'm actually reviewing the steel case Blu-ray edition, as this is the one that I picked up. I know we have the standard edition that's out there, but if you're going to get these wrestling DVDs and you have the option between standard and Blu-ray, why not go for the Blu-ray? I always say, because you get more bonus content. I mean, nowadays you're getting the bigger bang for your buck. Speaking of bigger bang for the buck, for those of you that are curious, Best Buy $29.99. Now, I know that there is the standard edition, the edition that's not Blu-ray, that's probably going for about $15, $19 at Walmart or Target, whatever your respected favorite wrestling hookup is for your DVDs and all that. But yes, I paid $29.99 for this steel case Blu-ray edition that has loads of extras. And let me tell you, long story short, is this DVD worth checking out? 100% yes. Yes, this DVD is worth checking out, and I'm gonna give you the reasons why. Now, first off, I want to just clear one thing up. And this happened to me, and I'm not sure how many times this happened to you out there that maybe ended up getting this DVD. But when you initially pick it up and you're reading the back of the DVD to try to see, like, okay, what all do I get? Give me this sneak peek. What's the hook that's going to lure me in to watch this? You're a little bit disheartened. And you're a little bit disheartened because one of the main things that you see on the back of the DVD reads that the DVD includes Eric Bischoff's interview. It's his two-part interview, nonetheless, with JBL for the Legends with JBL series. And then you also see that there is Eric Bischoff's top 10 controversial moments. And then they say, and many more. So when you first read that, you're a little bit disheartened because you're kind of going, oh man, don't tell me I'm kicking back and I'm going to be watching a bunch of footage that is recycled, because with what I just named, it's actually from the WWE Network specials, for those of you that have the WWE Network and you remember. But at the same time, when you really kind of think about this, this is actually somewhat of a cool experiment, because if you've hooked up to fill out WWE surveys, you're part of their council and all that, then you guys would know that WWE has been playing with the idea of making certain network specials that they do be available on DVD, and they've pitched a few ideas around. But when you first read the contents on the back of the DVD, you're disheartened. In my case, I was almost ready to have my girl turn the car right back to the Best Buy and just get a refund. But I was like, well, wait a minute, something's not quite right here. And I read the bottom and I saw that it had like 8.5 hours of content. Now, again, this is for the Blu-ray steel case edition. I'm sure even if it's not a steel case edition, if it's just the Blu-ray edition that you grab, it's going to be 8.5 hours of content. So I say, you know what the hell? I even tried to look on YouTube to see if anybody was giving like a brutally honest review about this, and the ones that were out there, no disrespect to them, not trying to make any enemies or anything, but I didn't really feel it addressed all the concerns that a potential buyer may have in wanting to pick up the DVD. So the number one story that's probably on the minds of a lot of people that was thinking about maybe getting this DVD is the story documentary part. Is there one in here? And if so, is it recycled from what you saw on the WWE network? No, it is not recycled. It is 95 minutes of brand new documentary footage, basically exclusively tailor made for this DVD release. And you could tell from the time that Eric Bischoff had did his interview with JBL to this DVD that, like, I'm kind of led to the impression like maybe 5 to 6 months had passed, because Bischoff looks to be a little bit more slimmer. Even though, he was pretty slim in his interview with JBL, but to me he just looked even more slimmer in a healthy way, as opposed to that. But yes, 95 minutes, all new documentary. And I got to tell you, I have always had a lot of respect for Eric Bischoff. He's always been one of my favorites as far as people I would love to have the opportunity to kick back, have a couple of brews with, talk nothing but wrestling for hours upon hours, and then just entrepreneurship and all that. He is definitely one of a few guys on a very short list that I would just love to kick back and just pick their brain. And this documentary itself alone, even if you don't want to pick up the DVD, but you have the capabilities of checking out the documentary itself, as I know WWE sometimes they let the documentaries of their new DVD releases be available on iTunes or Amazon. The documentary alone is worth going to check out. If Eric Bischoff rubbed you the wrong way in previous years, I guarantee you that by the time you get done checking this out, you're actually going to kind of walk away having newfound respect for this man. And I like how it pretty much picks up, not to give the entire documentary away, but compared to the RF video interview that Eric Bischoff did a couple of years back, because I definitely got to give a nod to those that like collecting the shoot DVDs and all that. You guys definitely, this is one you'll want to pick up. It just really seems to be a perfect companion to what he did with RF video last year, if I'm not mistaken. Not a mandatory, but if you love all things Eric Bischoff, this definitely makes a good companion piece to that RF video compilation. But it kind of follows up on what he did with RF video, but it basically has the WWE production slash finesse touch to it. And I loved just the fine detail and emphasis that was put on his early career, how he was coming up, and just the story alone, how this young man at one point he got into the amateur wrestling. He wasn't really an expert at it, but he had a lot of heart. He kept going in there. He was getting his butt whooped, but every time he turned around, he just kept coming back for more and more and more. So that shows you a lot of heart, a lot of dedication that he had distilled in him back then, to saying, okay, well, you know what? Let me try going into martial arts. And he got a black belt. He studied various types of martial arts, ended up being an instructor, having his own gym, the dojo that he ran for a good minute. At the age of 21, he and a buddy of his became business partners, and they had their own construction company going on. And like right when they were really turning the corner where they were going to have like lucrative deals left and right, it was already a booming business, but they were like just beginning to scratch the surface of the company. Eric Bischoff decides, okay, you know what? I'm 21 years of age, and this is a lot of work. This is a lot of time. This is a lot of energy that has to be put in. I'm not really sure if I want to be going through with this. And so he told his business partner slash friend that he wanted out. He got bought out, and it's kind of like, wow. So like, where do you go from here? And a good friend of his, Sonny Ono, who he's known for a lot of years. They came up with the idea of a really cool game for kids, Ninja Star Wars, basically a low budget version of laser tag, but they felt they had something that was really trendy that was going on. Uh, and they basically operated this business like right out of Eric Bischoff's house. So they had everything drawn up, built, shipped, delivered to his house, and they were pretty much using the house as a warehouse to ship out and all that. But what they really needed was the right type of an environment where they could basically sell to like hundreds, potentially thousands of people, because they really felt they had a great idea here. And long story short, one thing leads to another where because of his wrestling background, through a contact or two, it basically put him in touch with the late Vern Gagne, who was running the AWA promotion. You all remember the AWA promotion, and the rest was pretty much history. So he went in there and they had somewhat of a nice deal that was going on. They didn't make as much money as Eric was hoping, but the fact that he was able to pull the strings together and get this deal going, as he was able to sell slash pitch his Ninja Star Wars product on AWA programming, because back then they were airing on ESPN from 3 to 4 o'clock. I forgot how many days a week, but it was a nice, good block of time that they had going on right there. And he wanted to capitalize on that. And even though it really wasn't as successful as it should have been, the fact that Bischoff was very determined. That's one thing that you learn throughout this DVD, is just when Eric Bischoff gets an idea, he's not one of those type of cats that like, okay, yeah, this sounds good, but now on second thought, no. On like as soon as the idea pops up in his head, he is just seeing that idea all the way through, because he's not only looking at it from an idea standpoint, he's also looking at it from a business standpoint. So that pretty much had got his foot into the world of professional wrestling. And I think everybody else pretty much knows the story about what eventually made him become somewhat of a color commentator or on-air personality. But for those of you that like don't know the real gist of it in a nutshell, their guy in AWA that was interviewing the wrestlers and doing the commentating at the color booth and all that was having some personal problems. And long story short, Vern Gagne was like, well, what about Eric? Maybe we can get a hold of him. And they went to Eric. Hey, put on a jacket. Come on. And the rest was pretty much history as far as that had went. And anybody that was watching AWA back in the day would definitely be in agreement that when Eric Bischoff first started with the interviewing and when he was doing the color commentating, it seemed like he was struggling there, but you definitely had saw the potential. And as time progressed, while he was there in the AWA, he got better and better and better. And it was just like, all right, this guy's coming along real nicely. We all know about when AWA had went out of business. Eric Bischoff had talk about loyalty to no end, and this is something that sticks with Eric to this very day. Loyalty. Even though Vern Gagne and family were going through what they were going through with the AWA, Bischoff was with Vern. He felt so loyal to this man that he went like 4 or 5, even 6 months without being paid. And so he, at this point, already has like 2 kids in the picture. Uh, his home is about to be taken away from him. Looks like they're about to begin the foreclosure proceedings. He's having a hard time making payments for his cars because they're being repossessed. He just got to that point where, as much as he wanted to remain loyal to the Gagne family, he had to do what he had to do. And Vern Gagne gave him the blessings and all that. And a couple of connections to WCW. Jim Hurd, I believe, was there operating it at the time. He takes a chance with Eric Bischoff. And when he brings him in, he basically says, look, I want for you to eventually make Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross's job very difficult. I want you to sweat. You look like a really good looking son of a bitch, and I see a bright career ahead of you. We're gonna see what we can do with you. So for him to go in and basically be like an understudy under Tony Schiavone, um, Jim Ross, and a whole bunch of the other color commentators, to that rise that he was able to take in becoming the WCW president. I mean, that's just like a freaking story in itself right there, and let alone the financial responsibilities that came with that, because when he became the WCW president, the company was struggling for a couple of years there. It looked as though, given about maybe 2 more years, they were about to go out of business. But Eric Bischoff had took on the task and trying to eliminate all the red tape that WCW was in. And he did a hell of a turnaround in 1 year, especially when he hooked up with uh, Disney, MGM Studios in Florida, and all that's really helped cut back on costs. And the rest is pretty much history, especially as far as once WCW was able to turn a profit, having Ted Turner in his corner, rooting him the entire time, even though the rest of the Turner executives, they were frowning on wrestling. You guys know this, that know your history. They really didn't want to have anything to do with WCW. They didn't want to have anything to do with wrestling. They wanted to be about all the major sports. That was pretty much it. And I'm going to pause on that one because I don't want to go too much because his story has been told so many times. But I tell you what, the way it was interpreted this go round on this WWE DVD release, really freaking awesome. But I love the fact that they really went in depth on his beer branding company. And little by little, it has been picking up some steam. I remember my girl during one of her travels down south, she had mentioned to me how she had saw Eric Bischoff's beer. So it might not be up there with Samuel Adams and all that, but you give it a couple of more years, I think it's going to get there. I believe the beer is called Buffalo Bill Cody beer or something of that nature. But I mean, just pause a second and just really think about that. Here's this guy, he's doing this thing with construction. He does the Ninja Star Wars game. He's a commentator, an announcer. He goes to becoming a WCW president. He's got this whole thing going on with the beer branding. And then on top of that, he's got his own entertainment company where he's basically sitting in with a crew trying to come up with different TV shows to pitch to Hollywood, movie projects, and all that. And if they get the green light, then as far as the production goes, they pretty much handle it all. So you really talk about a guy that is like a jack of all trades, a renaissance man. It has a really cool message behind it on a subliminal level, if you really think about it, that I don't think is really highlighted enough. And that's the fact that if you set your mind out to do something and your heart's really in the right place, as long as you see it through and you stay the course, anything that your heart desires, you can really accomplish it. You just got to put in the time, you got to put in the energy, you got to put in the effort, in a nutshell. And every single time Eric Bischoff stepped up to the plate, no matter what he was doing inside the ring and out, he was always able to see his ideas right on through. So, of course, he talked about what was going on during the Monday Night War. Other things that should be greatly highlighted is a lot of the controversies that have just seemed to manifest itself over the years, as far as Eric Bischoff giving wrestlers, and I say that with a plural, creative control in their contracts so that they can do any and everything that they want, anything that they desire. Not true. I'm not going to spoil that for you, but you got to check it out, hear it in his own words. Other things that he tackled was whether or not he got too friendly and personal with WCW talent, as that was one of many knocks that came at Eric Bischoff. And it was really nice to see, because I like the way this DVD was really broken up. You pretty much had got the origin right on through to the great success that he was having as WCW president in those first couple of years, especially those several months there where they were crushing WWE Raw and all that. And then it's kind of like the second half basically dealt with the fall of WCW and the things that people in WCW were saying negatively about Eric Bischoff. It was really nice to see him on his own DVD. And let me tell you something, this wasn't a case where, because I know we've seen it in the past where some folks, they'll address certain things that's said about them, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm still not really sure, but this has to be one of those rare instances where when you hear Eric Bischoff address whatever controversies that came about him during his time in WCW here on the DVD, he mans up to some of the things that is talked about. And then, it's like he doesn't deny anything. It's like he owns up to it, but at the same time, he gives you insight into what was going on with him at that time, how he was handling things, if maybe he should have handled it differently. So, here's a guy right here that could have easily just been like, they're all liars. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. But the approach that he really takes, you just can't help but like, especially when you see everything that's been going on in his life presently, and you understand how he started off as a kid and just to where he is now, you honestly can't help but kick back and go, yeah, like, why would he lie about something that small? It's like so many years has passed. There's no reason for him to go that route, especially given the position that he's in right now in his life, in his career. Like, so you really take what he's saying at true value. Now, there may be some people that will look at some of the things that he says and they may want to dissect it, and they want to maybe spend 10 minutes doing a whole critique on it and all that. I know there's the old saying, there's this side, there's that side. There's always two sides to a story, and then there's the truth. But this has to be one of those rare instances where you just can't help but kind of go, okay, yeah, Eric really comes off very sincere with this one. So good stuff, man. Really, really good documentary here. Of course, for those of you that's like, did he talk about TNA? Come on, man. It's a WWE production documentary DVD here. No, it wasn't brought up. And am I sad? Am I a little bit disappointed that his time in TNA wasn't brought up? Honestly, no. And not to spend several minutes on it, but I'm happy that his time in TNA wasn't brought up during this, because honestly, there was a lot of misses during his time in TNA, and everything that had worked so well in WCW, you just would have thought that lightning could have struck twice, especially as far as helping TNA get to that next level when Eric Bischoff had came on board to try to help them out and everything. And I must admit, the first couple of years looked very promising for TNA, but when it got to that situation where you just had too many cooks in the kitchen, eventually some people are going to be like, okay, look, there's too many people in here, I'm just going to roll out. So I think in regards to TNA, there was just a lot of resistance on a lot of fronts, and it pretty much ended the way that it ended. But I'm not disappointed that TNA was not brought up in this. So moving back to more of the documentary itself, of course, he talks about downfall of WCW, Time Warner, that merger deal that went down. One thing that was very interesting with regards to the whole merger, he honestly have felt, and I thought this was kind of new because I don't really remember him saying this in previous interviews, but he had said that like he normally would pick his fights wisely when he was trying to fight for WCW. And when this whole merger thing was about to go down, and he got word from his sources that, like, when this merger goes, yeah, they don't want to have anything to do with wrestling. He was trying to do everything in his power to, like, help WCW stay afloat, try to get the money together, and buy WCW outright himself. And one thing that he didn't know at the time was all these execs, these suits that were in play, undermining, belittling him, and not giving a crap about WCW. As all this was going down, they had the upper hand because Ted Turner was losing like his own business because years prior his word, his vote was like the be all end all. But you know how it is when you're a publicly traded company and you bring in other people that can pay X amount of shares and they own part of the company as well. When you have a executive board that collectively takes votes, makes decisions, et cetera, et cetera. You know, this was a case right here where over time, uh, the rug got pulled right up under from Ted Turner's feet, unfortunately. So no matter how hard Eric Bischoff would have fought, even if it would have meant eventually it would go to Ted Turner at the very top, Ted couldn't do anything. So I thought that little snippet was interesting. I mean, I've heard that story told off and on through the years, but just the way that it was presented this go round, you guys will know what I'm talking about when you check out the DVDs. Like a couple of new elements that's in there that make you go, "This is interesting." One other thing that I thought was really interesting, and I was like not even aware of this at any time, but one of the network executives, Bill Shaw, who was always trying very hard to pull in the favor for Eric Bischoff. He's always rooting him on and all that from the sidelines. Was right before Eric Bischoff was given the promotion to become the WCW president. Bill Shaw actually had made a call to Vince McMahon and was like, "Hey, look, is there anybody that like you had any type of past affiliation with that you could like recommend for this position? Because you know we could really use the help. We could really use a good recommendation. Anybody we should maybe consider." And at the time, Vince and Vince's people, they're like, "Nope, nope, nope. We don't know anybody. Nope, nope, nope." And I mean, that's somewhat understandable given how it was back then. WWE didn't want to really acknowledge any other territories, promotions that were out there and all of that. So I thought that was like nice to know. But people that show up during this documentary, you got Chris Jericho, Kevin Nash, old footage of the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. I must say it felt really weird watching this Eric Bischoff documentary and like not see Eric not see moments where Hulk Hogan would pop up, like new footage. And you can tell that it's old footage because when you look at it, you can tell it's pretty much around the same time when the Hulkster like maybe had first came back and they just asked him a bunch of stuff one day and they pretty much just saved it, put it in the can until a rainy day when they could finally go back and use it. They had some recycled stuff from Dusty Rhodes on what he said about Bischoff over the years. So same rules, same thoughts apply to the Hulkster as far as I wish we could have got like new, fresh things, his perspective on what all was going on with Bischoff in WCW from his standpoint. Also would have been nice to hear some new stuff from Dusty Rhodes. Who else showed up in there that was interesting? His wife of 31 years shows up in there. She held her own very well too. I must say, I normally don't particularly care for siblings and WWE documentaries and all that, but I thought she held her own very, very well. Very beautiful woman too. Very beautiful woman. See, we mentioned Jericho. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Oh, for those of you that's like, does Vince McMahon show up? Does he have anything to say with regards to Eric Bischoff? No. I know it's kind of weird. I guess maybe Vince McMahon is just more of the let me see how the finished product looks type of guy, and he'll quietly watch it on his own. And it's like, okay, good, moving right along. I don't know if that's how he's operating, but you'd have thought that maybe Vince McMahon would make some type of a cameo during this bad boy, but he doesn't. But let me tell you, man, this guy, Eric Bischoff, one of the most influential personalities, human beings to ever step foot in professional wrestling. Uh, Very innovative, years ahead of his time. And I tell you, he gave WWE, he made them sweat. He made them sweat big time. And it's just funny how things had ended up. And I thought the way that this DVD had ended was very interesting because Eric Bischoff had addressed the fact that if WCW would have came out on top during the whole Monday Night War and WWE, they're done. They go out of business. And then the Time Warner deal still goes down. Just think about how overall, how much of a black eye that would have been on professional wrestling, like, period. TNA probably wouldn't have even came about, and all the other, you probably still would have had wrestling promotions on the independent circuit, but none of them would have even been on the magnitude of WCW and WWE. It would have just been like a underground type of deal. Lucky if you could even get to that point of maybe a ECW or whatnot. But he said he was really glad that WWE were the ones that ended up coming out on top with the victory and all that, because as far as he was concerned, this DVD, the documentary with him talking to the WWE crew, it would have never happened. Basically, the WWE network wouldn't even be in existence. Just a whole lot of things, because he called it for how he saw it. He feels that if WCW came out on top and the merger still would have went down, that really would have been it for pro wrestling, quite honestly. So I know that's probably a tough pill for some of you diehard WCW fans or hardcore Eric Bischoff fans to kind of go, nah, that's, but when you just really pay attention to this documentary and his journey all the way up to those closing moments of this, you can't help but kind of go, you know what? He actually might be on to something there, because the executives, Time Warner, TNT, and TBS, they did not care for WCW whatsoever. As far as bonus stuff that's on here, I already told you guys you get part 1 and 2 of the JBL interview with Eric Bischoff. As far as disc 2 goes, pretty much the same as what you would get in the standard. I'll just run off of it real quick, but I definitely want to get to the Blu-ray exclusive. So on disc 2, you get AWA All-Stars from 1987, Ninja Suit Man, AWA All-Stars Wrestling, January 1991. Eric Bischoff and Greg Gagne discuss Billy Robinson. Great American Bash from 1991. Eric goes into the women's locker room. Halloween Havoc, October of 94. A gift for Muhammad Ali. Great American Bash, June of 96. Jackknife Bischoff. Blind Powerbomb. WCW Nitro, November 25th of 1996, NWO Bischoff. WCW Monday Nitro, January 20th of 1997. Easy E, Nitro, January 27th of 1997. Eric fires Randy Anderson. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember that one. Nitro from February 10th, 1997. Randy Anderson pleads for his job. Yeah, I love that. Eric Bischoff playing Eric Bischoff. WCW Starrcade, December 28th, 1997. for control of Monday Nitro, Eric Bischoff versus Larry Zbyszko. I haven't watched that match in years, so I'm actually looking forward to watching that again. WCW Monday Nitro, May 11, 1998. Eric challenges Vince McMahon to a fight. You hardcore WCW fans remember that one very vividly. I do. WCW Monday Nitro, May 18th of 1998. It's Good to Be King. We all remember that segment. Late Night Imposter, knocking off Jay Leno. WCW Monday Nitro, July 20th, 1998. NWO Nightcap, Keeping a Secret. Raw, July 15th, 2002. Eric Bischoff is named general manager of Raw. Used to have it on my VHS tape for the longest. Yeah, we used VHS tapes still back in 2002 of when Vince McMahon had called out Eric Bischoff as the new GM of Raw. I remember my phone blew up for like the rest of that night when Eric Bischoff was announced and he came out. It was like hell froze over. Like, it does no justice to watch it on the WWE network now, and when you watch it on YouTube, you would have actually just had to been a wrestling fan living during that time, watching the WWE product during that time, because it was just, and it was like the talk. It was the talk at school, at college, at work. It was, did you see Eric Bischoff? He showed up in WWE. He's like cold, like never thought in a million years you'd see that go down. SmackDown, September 12, 2002, Billy and Chuck's wedding. Yeah, I remember that one. Let's see. Judgment Day, May 18, 2003, in the Skybox with Stone Cold. Insurrection, 2003, Y2J's highlight reel with Eric Bischoff and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course, the infamous Raw, December 5th, 2005, the trial of Eric Bischoff. Now, your Blu-ray exclusives. Again, if you're going to get this and you got access to a Blu-ray player, go all the way. Get the Blu-ray. You get lots and lots of exclusives now. You guys should know this by now. I mean, why would you get standard? If you can't afford a Blu-ray player, that's one thing. But if you have access to a Blu-ray player, do yourself justice. Get the Blu-ray. Here's your exclusives. ESPN Championship Wrestling from 1989. Eric interviews Sergeant Slaughter and Barn Von Roski. AWA All-Star Wrestling from 1990. Eric interviews Larry Zbyszko and Colin De Beers. Worldwide, December 7, 1991. Eric interviews the Steiner Brothers. Worldwide, February 1st of 92. Eric interviews Vader, Harley Race, and the Tailor-Made Man. Worldwide, April 13th, 1992, Eric interviews Stunning Steve Austin and Medusa. That should be a interesting one. Power Hour, May 30th, 1992, Eric gets a tour of the fabulous Freebirds Enterprises. Halloween Havoc, October 24th, 1983, Eric interviews Sid Vicious and Robert Parker. WCW Pro Wrestling, March 6th of 1995, Eric Bischoff's Candid Camera gets the dirt on DDP. Nitro, May 12, 1997, Will the Real Sting Please Stand Up? Slamboree, May 17th, 1998, Eric Bischoff versus Vince McMahon. I still remember that one to this day. That was hilarious. Thunder, June 11, 1998. Miss Elizabeth tells the world who the real Macho Man is. I remember that one. SmackDown, July 18, 2002. Eric meets the Great One. I'm sure you guys remember that. SmackDown, September 19, 2002. Dueling GMs via satellite. That kind of rings a bell. Raw, October 21st, 2002. You will bear witness to the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, the introduction of the Elimination Chamber. Remember that one. And how it manifested over the years, I don't know. For the longest time, everybody thought that that was the brainchild of Eric Bischoff. He only presented it as a on-air TV personality. The person that actually came up with the structure that came up with the Elimination Chamber concept was Triple H. Do your respected research online and you'll find out for yourself. See what else we got. Raw, April 28th, 2003, non-televised footage. Stone Cold stuns Eric Bischoff. Raw, February 23rd, 2004, special guest referee Stone Cold Steve Austin. Eric Bischoff versus Vince McMahon. We got two more. Taboo Tuesday. I remember this one. October 19th, 2004, loser gets their head shaved. Eric Bischoff versus Eugene. Yeah, his feud with Eugene, that was a really good program, I must say. And finally, Raw, September 25th, 2006, the coach brings his mentor home. So that concludes your Blu-ray exclusives. But recap once again from the RCWR show here. Eric Bischoff, sports entertainment's most controversial figure. It gets a strong pass. If you checked out the Paul Heyman DVD, this is right up there. If not equal, it's right up there. It's that damn good. Go out of your way. Check it out. You can't afford the Blu-ray. You don't have access to Blu-ray. You're going to go with standard. That's fine. The documentary alone is worth going out of your way. Walmart, Best Buy, Target, FYE. Go grab it. You'll be glad you did. Really freaking awesome. And that's going to do it. For those of you that saw the Eric Bischoff DVD, would love to hear from you guys. So post your comments down below, and we'll follow up on what y'all have to say on a future episode of the RCWR show. You like wrestling? Obviously you do. You've been checking out my review up to this point. If you do love wrestling, make sure, if you haven't done so already, you subscribe to our YouTube channel here, and you can check out new editions of the RCWR show Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com live and in living color. If you can't check it out live, you can check it out on multiple platforms, on demand, and on the downloads. All the links you need is in the video description of this very video that you're checking out right now. Follow me on Twitter at the RCWR show. Make sure you say hello. I'm on Facebook as well. Infinity One Productions. That's with an E. Spell out one. Infinity One Productions. If there's a DVD you'd like me to check out, maybe consider for a future review, leave those comments below. And if I am able to get around to it, I'll make sure I give you a nod. That's going to do it. Thank you for checking this out. We'll see you next go around for another installment of our DVD review series. Until next go round, be safe, be kind to one another. Happy 4th of July in advance. Everybody do take care.